puff pastry dough is buttery and flaky and makes for such decadent baked goods, whether they be savory or sweet. First, I'll show you the technique of a real French folded puff pastry dough. The French method I'm showing you now has two parts to it, the beurrage and the detrempe. I'm gonna start by mixing the beurrage. This is that hunk of butter that gets folded in layer by layer into the dough. So I've got 3 cups of unsalted butter, and I'll add 1 cup of flour. This makes this butter layer easier to handle as you start rolling it and folding it. It may be a shocking amount of butter, but it is puff pastry for a lot of recipes. There we go. So this butter really doesn't change much in consistency, but because it's so soft, we have to chill it down so that we can handle it and work it into the dough. Now you need to let this chill until it's almost firm. So chill it for a couple of hours. Now for part 2 of the French puff pastry, and that is the detrempe. This is the body of the dough. So I start with 4 cups of all-purpose flour. And then a cup of cool water. And just a touch of sugar, 1 tablespoon. 2 teaspoons of salt. Then an important ingredient is a tablespoon of lemon juice. And now I'm switching to a dough hook because we really want to knead the dough. Now I can add the last element. Not as much butter as the beurrage, of course, but 1/2 cup plus an extra tablespoon at just about room temperature. And it takes about 4 minutes to really knead the dough. There we go. So the dough has come together. So I'm gonna shape this into an 8-inch square. You wanna give it at least an hour to relax. So I've got one already chilled. The method for this puff pastry is the French method, your 2 parts, your beurrage and your doughy detrempe. The contemporary and modern thought amongst pastry chefs is to roll out the butter and put the dough in the middle. Makes for a more even and consistent pastry. So now I'm going to roll it lengthwise, about 20 inches across. And this is the first fold. Oh, this is why you need the big rolling pin with the handles on the outside, because at this point, it's a bit of work. Lift, make sure it's not sticking, and I do a 3-fold. So you fold it 1/3 the way in, and now brush off this excess flour, and like so. So that's 1 fold down. You can usually get up to 2 folds each folding session without overworking the glutens. And there we go. So dust off the flour and the same 3-fold. I've exercised the dough enough that it needs to relax. You have to give the puff pastry at least 2 hours in between the rolls and folds for the butter to set. So back in the fridge it goes. It's really a simple case of repetition. Now you'll need to repeat this double roll and fold step once more, followed by a single roll and fold. But be sure you let the dough rest in the fridge for at least 2 hours in between. And this is a puff pastry ready to roll and use after it's had its 2 hours to rest and relax. But just to show you, so you can see, this is why it's worth the effort. Those beautiful thin layers of flour and butter ready to bake up and be flaky.